Have you ever sat in a fast-paced meeting, perfectly prepared, only to watch the entire conversation just speed right by you without getting a single word in?
Oh, yeah. Where you're just sitting there totally muted.
Exactly. You have your notes in front of you, you know exactly what needs to be said, and yet the moment just never opens up. You're waiting for that polite, natural pause, but it never comes.
It is an incredibly frustrating universal experience. By the time someone finally takes a breath, the room has completely moved on, and your perfectly crafted point is just, well, irrelevant.
Right? You're left sitting there wondering how everyone else makes it look so effortless. Today, we're going to break down exactly why that happens, and more importantly, the mechanical tools you need to fix it.
Welcome to today's analysis. Our source material today is really interesting. It comes from an audio guide, specifically Talk English Daily, Episode 11.
Yeah, and this was originally designed for A2 to B1 English learners worldwide, right? To teach them how to navigate professional corporate meetings.
Exactly. But looking closely at the material, there's a fascinating underlying truth here. The strategies they're teaching aren't just language lessons.
No, not at all.
They are a masterclass in the raw mechanics of meeting communication for absolutely anyone, regardless of your native language.
I totally agree. When you strip away the language learning wrapper, what you're left with is a highly structured behavioral manual for corporate influence. And that is the mission of our discussion today.
We're going to decode the specific phrases, the precise timing, and the psychology required to, claim your space in a room, disagree diplomatically, and lead effectively.
Right, because the premise here is that having influence in a meeting is rarely about having the biggest personality. It's almost entirely about possessing the right conversational tools.
Which is such a relief, honestly. It shifts the focus away from personality traits. People who struggle in meetings often internalize it. They think, I'm just not assertive enough.
Or, I'm too introverted for this corporate environment. But this material approaches it as a highly specific, learnable formula. Anyone can execute it if they know the script.
So to understand why these maneuvers are necessary, the source uses two great role-play scenes to set this up. First, we have the story of the invisible participant. Let's look at the character Alex.
Ah, yes. Alex. So Alex is prepping for a major project meeting at work. He has a strong opinion on the project's direction. He's done the research. He has the data.
He is completely confident in his position. He has everything he needs to make an impact, at least on paper.
Right, on paper. But the meeting starts, and the dynamic is just overwhelming. The room is full of people who are overlapping their sentences, building on each other's ideas, talking over one another.
And every single time, Alex forms the perfect sentence in his head and takes a breath to speak, someone else has already jumped in.
Yeah. He's trapped waiting for a rhythmic permission that this group is just never going to give him.
Because he is treating the meeting like a formal tennis match where everyone gets a polite turn, but the rest of the room is playing like a chaotic game of dodgeball.
I love that analogy. And because he doesn't know how to disrupt that rhythm, he defaults to silence. He sits through the entire hour in total silence.
Oh, wow. And what happens next is brutal. The team ends up making a decision he fundamentally disagrees with.
But the real tragedy is 3 weeks later. Someone else suggests his exact idea, the one he had fully researched but never spoke out loud.
Oh, that is the worst. And the team immediately approves it, right?
Yep. They praise the other person. Alex was essentially invisible. Not because he lacked expertise, but because he literally did not have the entry phrases required to force the room to pause.
His lack of a 3-word tool cost him the credit for a major project. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, the text presents a second role-play scene with Jamie.
Right. Jamie represents the overwhelmed leader. She's asked, with only 4 days' notice, to chair a massive 20-person meeting, and she has to do it in English.
Managing 20 people isn't a meeting. I mean, that's crowd control. Throw in a highly sensitive topic where the team is divided and you have a nightmare scenario.
Jamie knows the technical content inside and out, but what she's missing is the specific language of leadership, which is an entirely different vocabulary.
Exactly. She doesn't have the linguistic formulas to open the meeting with authority or, politely silence the one participant who is monopolizing the airtime.
So she barely survives the hour. 2 critical action items just vanish into thin air because nobody was explicitly assigned to them.
These 2 narratives really isolate the barrier. The barrier to success isn't a lack of ideas. Meetings are just a treacherous ecosystem, and the material breaks this down into 3 factors: speed, formality, and stakes.
The speed factor makes perfect sense with Alex. The window to interject opens and closes in a fraction of a second. It reminds me of trying to merge onto a really busy, fast-moving highway.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. If you just sit parked on the on-ramp, waiting for all the traffic to come to a complete stop and wave you in, you're going to sit there until you run out of gas.
You have to know how to use your blinker, match the speed, and just edge your way in. You cannot wait for the traffic to stop.
The second factor is formality. This is about operating on a specific professional register. It's not a casual chat, but it's not a legal negotiation either. It's a Goldilocks level of formality.
And if you're too casual, you look unprofessional. If you're too blunt, you burn bridges. Navigating that nuance takes a lot of cognitive processing.
Which feeds directly into the third factor, the stakes. In a meeting, your silence is almost never interpreted as neutrality.
Right. People don't assume you're engaged in deep analytical thought. They penalize silence. They assume you lack confidence or you just don't care.
If the penalty for silence is that high, the priority has to be getting into the traffic.
Yeah.
And the source actually goes through 6 common corrections for learners.
Yes, starting with mistake number 1. Trying to formulate your entire multi-sentence argument in your head before speaking.
It's an impossible cognitive load. You're trying to capture attention and deliver complex information at the exact same moment.
The correction here is to use an entry phrase. This is the blinker for our highway merge. You just need 2 to 4 words designed exclusively to claim your turn.
Like, I'd like to add something here.
Exactly. Let's practice the repetition they use for the learners. So naturally, it's, I'd like to add something here, and slower. I'd like to add something here.
It just forces a physical pause. Another one they suggest is, can I jump in on that? Say it naturally. Can I jump in on that? It's like, can I jump in on that?
These phrases trigger the social conditioning of the room to let you finish your sentence. But there is a psychological trap, which brings us to mistake number 2.
Yes. Using the phrase, I want to speak. It seems logical for a learner, but it instantly diminishes your status. You sound exactly like a child raising their hand in a classroom.
It frames you as a subordinate. The correction they offer is much more strategic. You say, building on what you said.
Let's repeat that one too. Naturally, building on what you said. And slowly, building on what you said.
It's incredibly effective because it positions you as a collaborative equal. Plus, it flatters the previous speaker, making them way more willing to yield the floor.
Okay, so you've merged into traffic. Now you have to deliver your opinion. This is where framing comes in. If you have high status, you use strong framing.
Like, in my view, the strongest approach is, let's do the slow version. In my view, the strongest approach is, it establishes authority.
But if you're junior, or in a cross-cultural team where blunt declarations are aggressive, you pivot to soft framing. You invite the room to explore it with you.
Right. You'd say, I wonder if it might be worth considering. Naturally. I wonder if it might be worth considering. And slowly, I wonder if that might be worth considering.
The core idea is the same, but the packaging protects egos. But let's say you do everything right. You use the entry phrase, you frame it perfectly, and the meeting just rolls right over you.
Nobody even acknowledges what you just said. It feels like a personal rejection.
It does. But it's usually just the room's momentum. The worst thing you can do is retreat into silence. You have to anchor it.
And you can't be defensive. The guide offers a fantastic maneuver. I just want to make sure I was clear about what I was suggesting.
Let's do the repetition, naturally. I just want to make sure I was clear about what I was suggesting. And slowly, I was immediately clear about what I was suggesting.
By phrasing it this way, you take the burden of the miscommunication on yourself. It diffuses tension.
So once your idea is on the table, you have to interact with other people's ideas. Which brings us to agreeing and disagreeing.
Let's look at mistake number 3. If someone makes a great point and you just nod and say yes, your contribution is basically worthless.
You're just a passive passenger. The correction is the formula. Agree and then add.
For example, I completely agree and I'd add that. Naturally, I completely agree and I'd add that, and slowly and add that. I completely agree.
It instantly elevates your status to a co-driver. Now, disagreeing is where people let anxiety take over, which leads to mistake number 4, blunt disagreement.
Right. Just saying, you are wrong, or that won't work. Even if you're factually correct, you've created a disaster. It attacks their status in front of the group.
The correction is the cardinal rule of diplomacy. Acknowledge first, then disagree. You say, I see the thinking behind that. I'm just not sure it would work in this context.
That's a crucial one. Let's repeat it naturally. I see the thinking behind that. I'm just not sure it would work in this context because...
And slowly. I see the thinking behind that. I'm not sure it would work. End is context. Because
you validate that they are smart, which protects their ego, and then you offer an alternative. You preserve your social capital.
This delicate balance applies to interruptions too. A hostile takeover dismisses the speaker, but a polite interruption acts like a yield sign.
You say, sorry to jump in. I just want to clarify one point before we move on. Naturally. Sorry to jump in. I just want to clarify one point before we move on. And slowly, sorry. Jump in. I just clarify one point before. Wait, move on.
But what if you are the one being interrupted? This is mistake number 5. The instinct is to aggressively shout, I am talking.
Which instantly makes you look like you've lost control of your emotions. The correction is a calm boundary phrase. Let me just finish this one thought.
Let's do the repetition for the learners, naturally. Let me just finish this one thought and slowly. Let me finish this one thought.
It firmly maintains your authority, but explicitly promises the interrupter that their need to speak will be met. It de-escalates the panic.
So navigating these micro-interactions is critical. But let's zoom out. What if you were the one responsible for the entire session, like Jamie was?
Facilitation is about controlling structure. A professional open is brief and goal-oriented. You establish authority immediately.
And you inevitably have to rein people in. Every company has that one talkaholic. You use a polite redirect. Thank you. That's really helpful background. Let me bring in a few other voices.
Validating them, but firmly closing their window. And just as important is the close, which is mistake number 6, ending by just saying, let's finish now.
Oh, a weak close is a massive mistake. If people walk out without a clear understanding of what was decided, the meeting was a waste. A proper close summarizes decisions.
Which brings us to the core vocabulary of facilitation. The source outlines 7 pocket words, and since this is for A2 to B1 learners, we're going to spell these out clearly.
Let's do it. These are structural concepts that govern how corporate power actually functions. The first word is agenda. That is spelled A-G-E-N-D-A.
An agenda isn't just a list, it's a blueprint for control. If someone brings up a rogue topic, the agenda is the shield you use to deflect it. That's not on today's agenda. It depersonalizes the rejection.
The second word is facilitate. That's F-A-C-I-L-I-T-A-T-E.
Facilitating is just about managing the process. You can facilitate, even if you're the most junior person there, just by summarizing the conversation.
The third word is consensus, spelled C-O-N-S-E-N-S-U-S.
Consensus is a brilliant psychological tool. It doesn't mean unanimous joy. It just means everyone can accept the decision enough to move forward. It lowers the bar from perfection to acceptable reality.
Right. And if you can't reach consensus, you use the fourth word, defer, D-E-F-E-R.
This is the politically safe way of kicking the can down the road. Let's defer this to next week. It saves executive egos.
The fifth word, and honestly my favorite, is action item, spelled A-C-T-I-O-N, space I-T-E-M.
An action item is a specific task assigned to a named person with a strict deadline.
I would argue this is the single most powerful concept on the list.
Yeah.
A meeting is just hot air until an action item translates that talk into reality. If you end without clear action items, you just had a very expensive group chat.
Okay, I completely see the thinking behind that, practicing our diplomatic disagreement here. But I respectfully argue that agenda is the supreme concept. Yes, action items are the output, absolutely. But the agenda is the foundation. You literally cannot have a productive meeting without an agenda. It dictates who needs to be in the room.
I will concede that you can't build a house without the blueprint.
Yeah.
But I stand by action items because I want to see the house actually get built.
Fair enough. Both are clearly essential tools. Let's finish the list. The sixth word is stakeholder. S-T-A-K-E-H-O-L-D-E-R.
Pure corporate politics. A stakeholder is anyone whose buy-in you need. If you make a decision without them, it's just a suggestion that'll get vetoed later.
Exactly. And the final word is minutes. M-I-N-U-T-E-S.
Volunteering to take the minutes seems like grunt work, but it's a strategic advantage. The person who writes the minutes controls the official historical record of what was decided. He who holds the pen holds the power.
So true. When you step back and look at all of this, from the entry phrases to the pocket words, a very clear core message emerges. Effective meeting participation is not an innate personality trait.
The people who look like natural-born leaders are not operating on pure instinct. They are simply executing the formulas we've discussed today.
They don't wait for permission to speak. They have their entry phrases queued up. They don't panic. They use the formula for disagreeing diplomatically. It is entirely about having the right conversational tools in your pocket.
If you've ever found yourself in Alex's shoes, sitting silently with a great idea, remember that one well-timed 3-word entry phrase is worth 10 minutes of waiting for the perfect moment. You just have to activate the blinker.
The source closes by previewing episode 12, where they'll continue this series. But considering how much of corporate influence relies purely on possessing these mechanical tools to interject, it really makes you wonder.
Wonder what?
How many brilliant company-saving ideas have been entirely lost to history simply because an introverted or non-native speaker didn't have the exact 3 words needed to pause the room?
Wow. It fundamentally changes how you look at the quietest person sitting at the conference table. They might have the exact answer the company is desperately looking for, they just haven't been given the mechanical tools to merge into the traffic.
We will leave you to ponder that.
Thank you for joining us for today's analysis, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Talk English Daily. Subscribe for new episodes.